everybody. Welcome back to Crime Weekly. I'm Stephanie Harlow.
And I'm Derek Levasseur.
So today we're diving into part 4 of the Gainesville Ripper case, and it's heating up. I'm just going to say that. I want to dive right in because This is a good episode. It's heating up. So after Danny Rolling, who we know is the Gainesville Ripper, after he was sent to Florida State Prison to serve life sentences for the string of robberies and burglaries that he committed in August and September of 1990, he befriended 2 inmates, Bobby Lewis and Russell Binstead. Now, Bobby, who had a history of working as a police informant, saw an opportunity to exploit Danny's notoriety and eventually convinced him to share details of the Gainesville Ripper murders with the police, which we remember Bobby and Danny sat down with the police. For the most part, especially in the beginning, Bobby was sort of Danny's mouthpiece. But then as, they kind of went forward, and as they spent hours together, Danny started speaking for himself. So on January 31st and February 4th, 1993, this is when Danny, with Bobby by his side, sat down with FDLE agents, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and they revealed chilling, detailed confessions about the murders of Sonja Larson, Christi Powell, Krista Hoyt, Manny Tabata, and Tracy Paulez. Now, also remember that Danny had become engaged to a freelance journalist, Sondra London, who he met through Bobby, because Bobby and Sondra were sort of talking about maybe writing a book, maybe figuring out some way to capitalize on the Gainesville Ripper story. So on February 5th, just one day after meeting with FDLE agents, Danny's fiancée, freelance journalist Sondra London, was allowed to visit him in prison for the first time. And this was one of the reasons that Danny had agreed to talk to law enforcement, was because he wanted to be able to meet the love of his life and spend time with her in person. So Sondra later recounted their visit, saying, quote, "I approached my meeting with Danny thinking I was prepared for anything, but there was one thing I was not prepared for. I had no idea what a fine-looking man he is today. Instead of the broken and dejected loser I'd seen on TV, standing before my hungry eyes was one gorgeous hunk of man. I'm sorry, folks, but it's the truth. My maximum man stands an imposing 6'2" with muscles out to here. His color is bright, his youthful skin is glowing, his hazel eyes are clear, and so is his head. The news footage publicized the courtroom image of him stumbling about awkwardly, stupefied by Thorazine and seemingly lost in his own body. But now, my dangerous pussycat strides across the floor with a languid power and instinctive grace that makes me highly aware that I am a woman and this is a man." End quote.
You included this quote just to make me gag.
I mean, I included it because I had to. We always hear about these women who flock to serial killers or violent men who are in prison. Ted Bundy had them. Chris Watts had them. Everyone has them. Even Scott Peterson. Even women who go to prison for violent crimes. They attract weirdos. And am I saying Sondra London is a weirdo? Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. You're a weirdo. You're 100% a weirdo if this is what you think about a man that killed 5 young people brutally. And not only that, sexually assaulted them before and after death, decapitated one of them. And this is my dangerous pussycat? Bitch, you're crazy. Okay, you belong in prison with him. You're a crazy weirdo. Yep, you're weird. That's all I'm going to say about that.
And you know what these people come from? Even the killers themselves, but also I think their associates like a Sondra.
They're admirers?
They're admirers, but I think they come from it where you had said last episode, what was the reasoning behind 5 people being killed? What was the justification that he gave for the 5 years he was served in prison?
Yeah, allegedly.
That's what he said. I'm not saying we agree with it or whatever, but there's always a story behind it. In some cases, it's just, I had a bad childhood. I was traumatized, and so this was my way of...
Somebody hurt me, so I hurt...
Yes, yeah. So I hurt someone. And in this case, it's, I served 5 years in prison wrongfully, so this was my retaliation.
Not wrongfully. He just didn't like the way he was treated in prison.
Correct.
Because it's supposed to be a fun experience, apparently, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is the way these guys justify this. And in some cases, you have associates who buy into that as well, which makes it even worse.
And you have to, because now they're thinking, right? Danny's thinking, oh, I'm not a leper of society. I'm not an outcast. There's people who accept me for my murderous thoughts, my murderous actions. What did she what did she call him? My maximum man, meaning like maximum security prison, by the way. Yeah. This is a fetish. This is weird. This is not, I'm not normally saying that people's sexual fetishes are weird. You do what you got to do. If it's consensual, if you're having a good time, if you enjoy it, I don't care what people do in the privacy of their own bedrooms. But fetishizing a serial killer to the point where you're like acting like this is the first real man you've ever met, this is twisted. You need mental health help. You probably deserve to be behind bars, Sondra London. Okay.
I'm just debating if I'm naming this episode Maximum Man or Dangerous Pussycat.
Dangerous Maximum Man or Dangerous Pussycat.
Jesus.
This woman is you're part of the problem, okay? You are part of and then I like how she's like, his hazel eyes are clear, and so is his head. No, it's not. I guarantee you his head is
anything but clear.
Anything but clear. It's a dark, twisted web of chaos. And this man does not have a clear head, okay? We've heard him talk. He's not right, and you're not right because you're getting off on this. Anyways, we think Sondra's crazy.
Yeah, and we don't have a lot of confidence in Sondra.
No, she's not the most reliable narrator. Let's just say that. So following her first in-person meeting with Danny, Sondra publicly announced that she had secured exclusive rights to all of his writings, art, songs, and other materials. Well, of course she did. Of course she did. I mean, acceptance for somebody who has never felt that they have a place, who has never felt that they were accepted, it's very powerful. So for Sondra to come in and be like, Danny, I don't care that you killed 5 people. I don't care that you shot your father. I don't care that you have done horrible, terrible things. I accept you exactly as you are. Nay, I love you and want you because of who you are. That's going to be such a powerful motivation for him to do whatever the hell Sondra London wants, by the way. She's manipulating him, I think, because there's no possible way. Unless she's literally like off her rocker as much as he is, there's no possible way that she's as into him as she's pretending to be. I think she wanted his story so she could get famous off of it, get famous and rich off of it. Yeah.
I agree. I agree completely. I said it last episode. I feel like the whole thing is set up where Danny, not trying to make him look like he's somehow a victim in this by any stretch. So I hope I'm not going there. But to me, it felt like a collaborative effort between Bobby and Sondra to get Danny to open up to them and to utilize his story to benefit them. For Bobby, it was a lesser sentence, getting out of prison early. And for Sondra, it was the notoriety that would come from this case.
The notoriety, the money, because remember last episode we talked about how, I was trying to look it up to see this guy's name, but we talked about how she had been dating somebody and this guy ended up committing some murders, and she became a journalist when she wrote about him, this dude she was dating who was a murderer. So she's got a pattern. I mean, that formula worked for her the first time. Why wouldn't it work the second time? Yeah.
She got a type. But no, I agree. I think there's an agenda for sure. And maybe she did develop feelings for him. I don't know. But there's definitely a reason behind all of this. And I think right here, her behavior shows that. She's trying to capitalize and monetize these tragedies. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm. And so she's announcing this. She thinks it's some flex, but this announcement backfired because prison officials banned her from any further visits. Now, when officers were asked why they made this decision, they claimed that Sondra had misrepresented herself in order to gain access to Danny. They implied that she wasn't truly in love with Danny and that her request to visit him was solely to obtain insider information. And listen, we just said that. We agree. I can't possibly think that she literally meets him and she's like, oh my God, that's my man. That's my man, my maximum man. No.
You're not buying it.
No. So Danny, of course, because he's Delulu, he fought back against these claims and he wrote a letter to the media, which read in part, quote, "My relationship with Sondra runs as deep as the Amazon River. And just as wild. She is an extremely exciting woman, Just the mention of her name sends my heart racing to her. She is without a doubt my soulmate, and I thank God above for sending her my way." End quote. Danny went on to express his frustration about not being able to physically touch Sondra during their one and only visit. He stated, quote, "We are desperately reaching for each other daily across miles of red tape cast before us by faceless foes. We are denied even the simplest of human rights, to just hold hands and speak to each other during a simple visit." End quote. You know what I think? Because this does not sound like Danny Rowling to me. This sounds like Sondra's flowery, dramatic writing. I bet you she wrote this statement for the media for him, and she was like, "Here, Danny, I took care of this for you.
You don't think Danny the singer could have came up with this?
No, dude.
I mean, come on. Give him a little credit.
No, this is Sondra London all day. My relationship with Sondra runs as deep as the Amazon River and just as wild. Stop it.
I think they're two peas in a pod. I'm calling Danny did write this. I think they get off on each other's writings.
Yeah, they're like...
Oh, yeah. This is like poetry
They're like
to each
Lori
other.
Vallow and Chad Daybell.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, no.
Let us know what you guys think right now. Pause the video. Did Danny write this? I think this is his love letter back to her. He knows she's going to read it.
"We are desperately reaching for each other daily across miles of red tape cast before us by faceless foes." She wrote this. They can write letters to each other in prison all day, any day. He doesn't care if she sees this or not. They're writing to each other. She's not banned from writing to him or having calls with him.
Danny's going to not be happy with you.
Well, Danny...
he wants his credit. He wants his flowers.
I hope that Danny went on to write a moving book of poetry with all of this flowery writing that he apparently is capable of out of nowhere for absolutely no reason. So he can get his flowers.
Okay.
He is an artiste.
Shots fired.
So with both Danny and Sondra, or Sondra and Sondra, speaking to the media about their relationship, it quickly turned into a spectacle, of course, with numerous outlets reporting on their romance. However, despite Danny and Sondra's insistences that they were madly in love, most people didn't believe them because most people have two brain cells to rub together to make a spark. So many suspected that Sondra was more of a serial killer groupie using Danny for a story. And when Danny heard about these allegations, he requested an interview with Channel 9 News to set the record straight. Surprisingly, prison officials agreed to this and allowed Danny to meet with a journalist in a room lined with armed guards. I'm not sure why they agreed to this. Why is the prison kind of leaning into the spectacle of this romance between Danny and Sondra when you have 5 people who are dead, potentially an entire family in Louisiana that's dead, right? That's responsible, that Danny Rowling is responsible for, and you're like leaning into this whole romance aspect. But they did. They let these journalists come in and meet with Danny, and as cameras rolled, Danny sat across the table from the journalist and read a prepared statement defending Sondra. I wonder who prepared the statement for him, Derek.
Oh, man.
I actually have
Let Danny live.
Let Danny live. I don't think he's alive anymore.
Well, in this moment, we're talking in present, in past tense, I guess. Or
I
present tense
100% do not want to let him live.
That's fair.
And it's like, you're right, though. If this chick's manipulating him, he deserves it. I hope that
listen, I don't feel bad for the guy.
No, I hope he legitimately felt like
used.
He was loved, and then he realized that she was just using him, and it crushed his very soul. I hope that happened. So we actually have a few clips from his statement that we're going to play for you.
Yes, we do. We're going to play them right now.
Sondra London is a colorful and bright woman, intelligent, talented, and it's a shame the way the media has bashed her as of late. She hasn't done anything to deserve that. Sondra is a worthy soul who only tries to bring the very best out of all she does. Sondra London is not, I repeat, not using me, period. No one is using me. Over the past 180 days, Sondra and myself have tried by protocol and through proper channels to get her approved to visit me. And she was allowed to visit me behind the glass once. Miss London represents me as editor, agent, and media go-between. From this point on, I shall make no further statements to the press unless Sondra London arranges it. If you wish to speak to me, speak to Miss London.
We're going to take our first break, and then we're going to come back, and we have a few more clips to play you, but we're also going to discuss what this prepared statement by Danny was. I don't know if anyone's noticed that the quality of just food in general in grocery stores isn't the best anymore. Sometimes I spend way too long trying to find the perfect tomatoes or, basil that's not going to die within a day. And it's just very, very difficult. But with Fresh Direct, the experience is night and day. And Fresh Direct is farm to kitchen. It is food sourced directly from farmers, fishermen, and ranchers and delivered straight to your door. Because of this, you're going to pay for the quality of food rather than just have someone go shopping in a store for you. You can grocery shop from your office or from your couch anytime you want. And the best part, Fresh Direct is the only true replacement for a grocery store. They offer a wide range of products from pantry staples to specialty items, all at great prices. And Derek was just telling me before we started recording, because we were talking about Fresh Direct, and he said, it's unfortunate that at this time Fresh Direct only delivers to the tri-state area. But if you're
unfortunate for us.
Yeah, unfortunate for us. But if you're lucky enough to be included in this geographical area, it's awesome, because my dad owned restaurants forever, and I know that every morning he would get his fish delivered right from the fishermen people. It's basically coming right out of the ocean and it's on your plate same day. And that's pretty much what Fresh Direct is, right?
Yeah, I actually was speaking to the Fresh Direct team, and that was the exact example they gave. Literally, you could be ordering fish that was caught that morning.
We love Fresh Direct. We think it's awesome. I hope that they expand their delivery areas someday. But if you are in the area, Derek's going to tell you how you can try them out for yourself.
And the reason that they're in that small of an area is because they pride themselves on getting you the freshest food. And if the more expansive they are, the harder that is. But if you want to go and check out their website, you can type in your address and see if they deliver to you. Strongly recommend that you do. And for over 20 years, Fresh Direct has been delivering the freshest fruits, vegetables, and meats to the tri-state area. So don't take our word for it. Try it to believe it with $50 off your first order. Just go to freshdirect.com and use our code CRIMEWEEKLY. That's all one word, CRIMEWEEKLY. That's freshdirect.com, code CRIMEWEEKLY for new customers to save $50 off on your first order. Terms and restrictions may apply. See site for details.
Okay, we're back. So while reading his prepared statement, Danny also made sure to mention that everything he and Bobby Lewis told the police was said without coercion and without a deal, which was a great thing. Maybe that's why prison officials were like, yeah, come in, record this dude. He never stops talking. This is big time, right? Because no coercion, no deal. This is awesome.
No duress, he's doing this under his own volition.
So we're going to play these clips right now.
Any and all parties involved in the investigation underway concerning the Gainesville murders have been and will be dealt with in an honorable fashion. The wheels of justice may turn slow, but they do turn. You don't ask of justice, it asks of you. The prison officials here at FSP have not made any deals with me, period. Nor have they made any promises to Bobby Lewis or myself, period. I have not been coerced into making any statements, period.
So after reading the statement, Danny stood up and said he couldn't answer any other questions. Now, I want to talk about the statement really quickly. We'll go back to his talking about Sondra London. She's a colorful, bright woman. She's intelligent, talented. It's a shame the way the media has treated her. She hasn't done anything to deserve this. She's a worthy soul. She's a victim. She's completely innocent. She's only trying to help everybody. He says she is not, and I repeat, not using me, period. He discusses the fact that he was only allowed to visit with Sondra once, and there was glass between them, and that she is not only the love of his life, his soulmate, and the most amazing person who ever walked the face of the earth, but she is his editor, his agent, and his media go-between, his spokesperson. And from this point on, he will make no further statements to the media, to the press, without Sondra London arranging it. So he's now tying them together. If you want to get to me, you have to go through her. And that means I have to keep her in my life. She stays in my life. This is a way to kind of keep her there and letting the media know, you guys want things from me, but I want you to leave my girlfriend alone. Leave Brittany alone. And then we're talking about the statement that he made when he was discussing his confessions about the Gainesville Ripper murders and how nothing was coerced and there was no deal. He says the wheels of justice may turn slow, but they do turn. You don't ask of justice. It asks of you. Wow, this is very deep. He says they haven't made any promises to me. They haven't made any promises to Bobby Lewis. I have not been coerced into making any statements, period.
As the investigators are sitting on the side of this, like just smiling or trying not to smile. Like, thank you. That's what we needed.
But I also feel like in the same breath, you said, period. Sandra London's not using me, period. But she definitely is. So, like, are you the best judge of what's real and what's not? I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
I will. We don't have confirmation, but I think that last little paragraph that you just read there might have been something where law enforcement officials did say, we'll allow you to do this, but if you do it, you have to put out publicly that we didn't coerce you into doing this or make any statements. We want to have a qualifier in there, because that does sound like something a detective or a lawyer would write for him to say, hey, we need you to say this or it's not going to go out.
Yeah, that may have happened. Yeah, that may have been one of the reasons that they allowed him to do that if he was able to do. Well, wouldn't that be considered making a deal with him then? Like, you can't get what you want unless you say what we want?
Yeah, no, it's not a deal. There's no promises. We're not making you any promises, Danny. We're not making any promises, Bobby or Sondra, and we want you to say that publicly. And if you do, we'll allow it all to go out. But we want you to say to all the media outlets that you're not doing this because we're forcing you to. As long as you do that, you can say whatever you want to say. Because to them, as long as he makes that statement, he's not going to be able to use it later as a defense. Now, just to counteract that, there have been times where, in my own experience and in just other cases that I've researched and worked, where there's been a statement given with right in the written statement after the person signs it, where it says you've not been coerced or threatened to make any of these statements, right? And you sign it. And they still come back and say, well, yeah, no, they threatened me and made me sign that. They threatened me and made me say that. So nothing is ironclad, but it does help. As long as you have it out there, it does help. But there are situations where it can still be overturned, because if they can convince whoever that indirectly they were being threatened to sign this or say that, then it could still be inadmissible. I
wanted to talk a little bit about Sandra London, just to sort of support what Derek and I both believe to be true, is that this was a pattern for her. She was in a documentary a while ago, and she talked about how she was first inspired to write about crime after she reached a plateau in her career as a technical writer. So that is when she contacted the incarcerated serial killer, G.J. Schaefer, who was actually an ex-police officer doing 2 life sentences for murder. She had dated him in high school, and then they lived separate lives. He killed a bunch of people, and then he went to prison. And so she contacts him, she reaches back out to him, and during this time period, the former deputy sheriff became obsessed with Sandra London, and he started revealing things about his crimes while they were having these prison visits together, and he would reveal things in letters to her. And London terminated the professional relationship with Schaefer after he threatened her life if she were ever to show authorities his incriminating letters. London went on to file these written threats and confessions with the court in defense of a lawsuit by Schaefer, charging her with falsely stating Schaefer was a serial killer. Upon reading 500 pages of Schaefer's handwritten statements attached to London's response, the judge threw Schaefer's lawsuit out. Now, after his death, Sandra London's sworn testimony was used to close 2 cold case murders of Schaefer in the Osala National Forest. So there's actually she actually benefited some people, some victims here, right? Maybe even unintentionally. But she did seek him out, knowing he was a serial killer and sort of worming her way into his heart in order to get details about his crimes that he hadn't divulged to anybody else before. Then she collaborates with serial killer Danny Rolling. They go on to write this book together, The Making of a Serial Killer, The Real Story of the Gainesville Murders, a psychological memoir, which included Rolling's confessions to 5 murders, along with other capital crimes for which he had not been charged. And this book was published by a publishing company called Feral House. It was also illustrated by 50 pictures hand-drawn by Danny Rolling in prison. She's been on many documentaries. She was on Larry King Live. She's been on Dateline. So it's not Geraldo Rivera, A Current Affair, Court TV, Channel 4, BBC. She's been all over, right? So she's not a figure that people don't take seriously, I suppose. It's just that I believe she literally has a pattern where she uses these men to get information and she tells them she's in love with them. And so then she has to tell everybody else that she's in love with them so that they believe it, because she can't tell them she's in love with them and then go out to the world and be like, I'm not really in love with him. I'm just using him to get this info. So it's this act she has to put on in this game she has to play. But this is not something that accidentally happened once and you just fell in love with a serial killer. You fell in love allegedly with 2 serial killers and then used what they told you to benefit financially, professionally, whatever.
Well, let me just counter it. Is it possible she is using this as a professional tactic? I, as an undercover detective, have convinced multiple people, hundreds of people in my career, that I was really their friend. There were even times where it didn't get too far, but convinced them that there was some type of romantic interest on my part to get people to open up to me and tell me things that would ultimately be used against them or people in their circle later. So did I fall in love with all these drug dealers, or did I actually have...
I don't know. Did you, Derek? Did you?
I mean, listen, sometimes. You know,
it's got to be real, right? Yeah.
They told me they loved me. It was real for me. In case any of them are watching, it was real for me.
Oh, you got to keep that going. Now you're going to have some like jilted ex-lover / drug dealer who listens to this and she's like, wait, Derek really wasn't in love with me? That's it. It's over for you now. It's over for you. You exposed yourself.
I definitely had some people pissed off. Not women. I don't want to go there, but I definitely had some people pissed off at me.
You should have like recorded this, because I would love to hear some of these interactions.
I have a couple of them. Yeah? I don't know what I can play. I have recordings from, so we used to use a key fob that had a camera in it, and I would record some of them. You know what? I think I have some of them. I have to see if I can get clearance, but I know I have some of them, and maybe if I can get the clearance for it, because the cases are adjudicated and we blur out and kind of alter the voices of the suspects. I wonder if I could play a couple of them. They're pretty cool. Serious note, there is a world. Is Sandra still around?
Yes.
Okay, so Sandra's still around. She may hear this. She may hear this episode. She may watch it. I would think she probably would say, I did this to get the story. I did this to get the information. And by the way, what I did is the reason you have closure in these cases.
But she didn't do it. That's the difference for me. It's not like you're a police officer and the only reason you're lying and manipulating another human being is so that you can bring closure to their family members, so you can bring closure to a legal court case. She's doing it so she can benefit financially and professionally herself. So is there a fine line for me? Like, and if some of the stuff she got, especially from her first serial killer boyfriend, ended up, helping to close out some of these cold cases, that's great. But I don't believe that was her initial intention. And so intention really matters in things like this. Like, are you manipulating and lying to people to gain personal benefit, to further yourself? If so, then you're just, I don't think that people who do that are good people and have good intentions. Not like a police officer, an undercover person who's just trying to like put the bad guys away and he's not benefiting financially from it himself. It's just like, that's my job and I'm helping, like protecting and serving. Whereas she's like, how can I benefit myself and make money off of other people's deaths and other people's crimes? So you, in a way, you're not any better than a serial killer that publishes their own memoir and makes money off of their crimes. That's where I'm at.
I'm with you. And this might be a surprise to some of you, but I could also say that for detectives. There are some detectives who their incentive behind doing such a good job may be for accolades or promotion. So I don't know Sandra. I'm just throwing it out there. There is a world where Sandra was doing this for the betterment of society. She was getting close to these monsters to try and get them to open up and eventually confess to what they did. And I do have to pose the question, if not for Sandra, does Danny Rawlings come out and ever admit to any of this?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know.
Think about it. Just putting that out there. Team Sandra? Are we Team Sandra now?
I'm definitely not going to say that.
Not there yet?
No.
We're not there yet?
No, not for her maximum man. No, that's overkill, man.
Not for the maximum man. She did go a little bit above and beyond. I'll give you that. That's
overkill. That's too much. You're doing too much. So anyways, Danny tells the reporters, listen, this is the last thing I'm saying. Anything else is going through my boo, Sandra. And after reading the statement, Danny stood up. He was like, I'm not answering any more questions. Now, the journalist, she tried to ask Danny a few questions anyways. He ignored her. He was like, I said what I said, and I meant it. Now, following the Channel 9 interview, the media circus continued. And at some point, Sonja collaborated with a jeweler to create a custom engagement ring based on a design that Danny had made. Now, Sonja actually paid for the ring by trading some of Danny's artwork to the jeweler. In the end, the ring featured 5 stones, 1 diamond, and 4 rubies. And Sonja proudly displayed the ring to the media and hinted that the design was intentional. Now, what would be intentional about 5 stones, 1 diamond, and 4 rubies? What would be intentional?
Yeah, I don't want to. As soon as you said it, when you said 5, not good. And then I asked the question, like, why the rubies and 1 diamond? What's the 1 diamond? I hope it's not what I think it is. That's all I'm saying.
I believe it is what you think it is.
Well, she didn't elaborate, right? I can see that in the script here. She didn't elaborate further. She just said it was intentional, and she left it at that. Did she ever expand upon the meaning behind it?
I mean, we're going to go ahead and, she didn't elaborate, but, she suggested that there was some meaning behind it, correct? Yeah. So what meaning would there be behind it? Now, there's a U.S. Sun article that Sonja London was interviewed for when she was 74, and she talks a little bit about being engaged to Danny Rawlings. She talks a little bit about the engagement ring. I think that if the engagement ring was what we think it was, if it symbolized what we believe it symbolized, then we're not Team Sonja, right? We're not
Team
okay.
Sonja.
All right.
I would say this is going above and beyond the call of duty.
Even in her 70s, though, Sondra's not saying, I was just using this guy. She's saying, no, I did develop feelings for him. She said that he professed his love for her in a letter, and he would often send her poems gushing about the way she made him feel. And she said, while the feelings were mutual, her priority was not pursuing a romantic relationship with him, but instead her priority was writing a book about the crimes he'd committed but hadn't confessed to yet. And I think she's kind of playing both sides here. She's like, no, I did love him. I did have mutual feelings for him. However, I was still focused on writing the book. Like, that was what my interest was, and that was what I was there for. She had an interview in 1994 with ABC6, and she told the host, John Donovan, quote, when I was brought into the prison and introduced to Danny behind glass, all of a sudden I found myself responding to him in a physical way, and I was not prepared for that. My ears went red. It's a physiological response, and this is why I had to admit that I love him, end quote. So, yes, if the engagement ring with the 4 rubies and the 1 diamond, the 5 stones, represents what Derek and I both think it represents, we are not Team Sonja. Okay? Just going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's, and for that, anyone who's not picking up on what throwing down, we're saying one stone for each victim, and just to go back to what you just said, to not skip over it on my end, I'm playing devil's advocate with Sonja, but just from what you're conveying here, I think the theme, I think most people would agree with, is anything that Sonja does is for Sonja. Whether it's falling in love with Danny, whether it's writing the book, it's for self-serving purposes. I was giving her an out, basically hoping that she would write something or come out later and say, listen, sometimes you got to get in the mud if you want to get to the end result that we're all looking for. I sacrificed a lot and I did a lot in order to get this man to confess. That's not what she's saying. Even later in life, she's saying, yeah, I actually did have feelings for him and I acted on him. And yeah, I did want him to tell me what happened because I wanted to write a book about it, which she would monetarily benefit from. So this is all about Sonja. And so I'm joking, but not joking when I say, are we Team Sonja? But she's telling you exactly why she did it. And you got to give her credit for that. At least she's honest.
The media frenzy surrounding Danny and Sondra's relationship, it kept building, reaching an all-time high in September of 1993 when Danny had a resentencing hearing for the Winn-Dixie robbery he committed in September of 1990. His original life sentence had been overturned by an appeals court which ruled that Danny had not been informed before entering his guilty plea that he faced a life sentence as a habitual offender, so he had to be resentenced, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, but first we're going to take a quick break. So I work from home, and because I work from home, there's a huge temptation to just sort of roll out of bed and then walk into my office and not have, this whole getting ready process in between because no one's going to see me. I could just go right from work to my bed. But mentally, it's better for me to put some effort into transitioning between bed and work. And that is where SKIMS Soft Lounge Collection comes in. SKIMS is loungewear that I can actually wear out of the house. And SKIMS Soft Lounge Collection is my latest obsession. It actually has been for a while. This summer, I only want to wear clothes that are comfy and cute, and that's meant that SKIMS Soft Lounge Collection is on me basically every day. Now, I will say that this is for home and for everywhere. So at home, I wear the Soft Lounge tank and the Soft Lounge fold-over pant, but when I go out, I am wearing their Soft Lounge long slip dress. I have this dress in so many colors. I even have the one with lace trim. So we love SKIMS. They have amazing bras, underwear. They have amazing clothes, loungewear, everything you could want, SKIMS has, and Derek's going to tell you how you can check them out for yourself.
So go shop SKIMS Soft Lounge Collection at skims.com, now available in sizes extra, extra small to 4X. And if you haven't yet, be sure to let them know that we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select Crime Weekly in the drop-down menu that follows. We would greatly appreciate it. Go check them out, guys. Skims.com.
All right, so at the resentencing hearing, Danny was asked if he wanted to address the court. With a smile, Danny stood up and said that he did want to address the court. Then he turned his attention to the love of his life, Sondra, and he said, quote, "They might keep you from me, but I want you to know they can't stamp out the love and affection that I have for you in my heart." End quote. After that, he began singing a song, a Danny Rolling original song.
I recall the day I first saw you. I reached out to say I love you, but it was hard to say. I couldn't touch you. So tell me, baby, what were my words? All my tears run together. What were my words? All my tears run together. What were my words? All my tears run together, baby, just like rain. Someone said to me, you can't run from your shadow, and all you wanna be, deep or shallow.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Rollins.
Down
Mr.
the path
Rollins.
you choose
Mr. Rollins.
to follow.
So you see,
Yeah, I know, you're
You
right.
see
I was
these
thinking
words in
that. I
here?
know, he's a poet. He
okay?
Yeah.
Can we
Yeah.
give Danny some love? Can we show
Nope.
him some can we give him some kudos here? I think that people in the comments are going to agree with me. I think he wrote those initial statements.
Maybe he did, man. And then he met Sondra.
There we go. I convinced you.
And then he met Sondra, and she's got all of this, annoying, gushy, this kind of, talk, by the way, makes me so uncomfortable when people talk to each other like this. I don't know why, but I'm not into it. But he was like, oh, here's somebody who can love bomb just as good as me. This is true love.
and on a serious note, I know I'm joking a little bit about Danny being a writer. Forget this guy. And by the way, Danny, you're no longer here from what Stephanie's telling me, but you suck as a singer. So I don't give you any credit at all. You're a loser.
Yeah, you also suck as a person, but
100%. That's why I don't want to make light of a situation. He did kill 5 people.
No.
And he didn't have a career in singing. We'll put it that way.
No, and it reminds me a lot of Charles Manson, because Charles Manson did the same kind of stuff.
He should have stuck to writing. We'll put it,
Yeah.
He should have stuck to just putting his words on paper.
So, but you know who did like this song, allegedly? Sondra.
Oh, let me guess.
Yeah, it was Sondra.
Your girl, Sondra.
Wait, that's your girl, Sondra, okay?
Your girl, Sondra.
So, as Danny sang, and in an open courtroom while there's people there, I'm so uncomfortable, Sondra bit her bottom lip and stared lustfully at him while playing with a chain around her neck that held a wedding ring meant for Danny. I feel like I'm cringing for them. I'm cringing for everybody who had to see it. I would have just gotten up and left. I would have been like, I'm all set. I can't take it. I'm going to throw up. This is awful. Now, the judge, thank God, eventually ordered Danny to stop singing and reminded him that they were there for a sentencing hearing, not for Danny to sing to Sondra. The judge then resentenced him to life in prison for the robbery.
Yeah, there you go. Congratulations. Great job.
He's like, your song did not sway me. It made me feel that you belong behind bars, so nobody has to be subjected.
After you sang, I was considering it.
I was going to give you 15 to 30 years, but now you're getting life in prison again.
For that tragedy, you're gone.
It's over. So the media continued reporting on Sondra and Danny's romance. The prosecution and defense were preparing for the Ripper murders trial, which was scheduled to begin in February of 1994. In the same month as the robbery resentencing hearing, Danny's defense team went to the Florida State Prison to speak to Russell Binstead. Now, if you recall from the last part of the series, Danny met Russell around the same time that he met Bobby Lewis, right after he was sent to FSP. Russell and Bobby Lewis became Danny's confidants and even helped Danny fake a suicide attempt so that he could stay in that same ward that they were in and so they could continue having access to him because they were using him too. Now, after Danny underwent mental health testing at another prison, he was sent back to FSP where he was placed in the same wing as Bobby, and Bobby had sort of arranged this with the prison officials. When meeting with Danny's defense team, Russell explained that after Danny was transferred back to FSP, he mostly kept to himself, talking only to Bobby, who had become his best friend. Bobby convinced Danny to talk to the police, which they did on January 31st and February 4th, 1993. But within just a few days of that second meeting, Bobby was moved out of the same wing as Danny. Prison officials explained to Danny's defense that the move was right. It was for Bobby's own protection. They were concerned other inmates might want to harm him. In fact, they felt that there was 3 groups of inmates who posed a threat. 1, friends of Danny who thought Bobby was a snitch. 2, inmates who disliked Danny and believed Bobby was his best friend. And 3, inmates who feared Bobby might snitch on them too, because he was known to be a police informant. He was known to work with the police and kind of do this. Based on these threats, prison officials recommended that Bobby be placed in a wing with no inmate contact and that he be considered for an interstate transfer, quote, due to the extraordinary circumstances in this case. Now, Russell told Danny's defense team that Danny was distraught over Bobby's removal and he felt betrayed by Bobby for leaving the wing without telling him. In response, Danny began sharing information about the Ripper murders with Russell, hoping that Russell might get a deal instead of Bobby. So his loyalties are not strong. He's like, oh, I feel like you're betraying me. I'm going to show you. It's like cheating on your girlfriend with someone else.
Well, he's gonna dilute the information that Bobby has, making him less valuable.
Now, over the course of the next 6 months, Danny spoke to Russell every single day, sharing details about the Ripper murders, which he had never revealed to Bobby or the police. Russell went on to tell Danny's defense team what Danny had told him. Danny said he was under the influence of cocaine and alcohol at the time of the murders, and that he purposely used the K-bar knife because it was designed for killing. It was heavy, sturdy, and had a broad blade with a bloodline down the middle, which Danny described as a groove that runs the length of the blade, allowing for easier penetration and removal from a body. Danny told Russell that the knife, quote, went in like butter, came out like butter, and stabbed through bone, end quote. Danny said that when he murdered Sonja Larson and Christi Powell, he entered their apartment and found Christi sleeping on the couch. Before he did anything, he noticed some stairs. So he followed those and he found Sonja sleeping in bed. At that moment, Danny had decided which girl he wanted to rape. Whichever girl he didn't choose, he had to murder first. Danny made the quick decision to kill Sonja because he was already in her room. Then he went back downstairs and he forced Christi to perform oral sex on him. Russell asked Danny if he was concerned about Christi biting his penis, and Danny said no. She was terrified and would have done anything he said, hoping that he would let her live. Danny added that he had Sonja's blood all over him, which only made Christi more scared. In my opinion, this would only make me want to bite his dick off even more because I know you already killed my friend, and I know you're probably also going to kill me because if you've already killed my friend, you're going to kill me. So anything I can do at this point to get some sort of edge in the situation and distract you long enough for me to like run away because they're on the first floor now, right? The entrance
Right.
door, the exit door is right there. I'm biting it off. I'm biting as hard as I possibly can. Okay.
Yeah, it's unimaginable to be in that situation. I don't know I give a lot of advice here. I don't know what the play is. I don't know. You're really in a lose-lose situation, honestly. I think there's just hope.
I mean, at that point, like I said, if you know that like, he killed my friend, he's not going to let me see his face, kill my friend, rape me, and leave and think that I'm not going to go to the police.
Right.
I know you're going to kill me. So at that point, it's a survival situation. Whatever you got to do, you're going to die either way. If you can try to get out of it in any way you possibly can. And also, I wouldn't want this asshole to think like, oh, I have her so scared she's going to do whatever I want. Like it would anger me so much that he would think that like, oh, she's not going to fight back because she's so scared and you're planning on killing me anyways, you asshole. Like, no, I'm going to take your penis with me. It's going with me. So you can't do this to anybody else ever again.
Maybe there's a small hope that sociopath, he would find a way for some reason to justify leaving me alive because of this. I don't know. It's a terrible situation. I got nothing.
Well, Danny further shared with his prison buddy Russell that when he raped Christi, she told him that he was hurting her, and he said to her, quote, "Take the pain, bitch," end quote. Danny also talked to Russell about Krista Hoyt's murder, claiming that he beheaded her and posed her body in the way he did for two reasons: to leave Gainesville with something to think about and to invoke terror. In addition to telling Russell about Krista's murder, Danny also wrote a full confession letter, which read, quote, "I, Danny Rolling, used a screwdriver to pry open the double glass doors and entered her bedroom. The time was approximately 10 o'clock p.m. I waited until Miss Hoyt returned. She had apparently been playing tennis. She was dressed in athletic t-shirt and shorts and tennis shoes. I watched her approach across the green lawn. She opened the door to her apartment and entered, closing the door behind her. It was dark, and I had moved a bookcase to her bedroom earlier to have a place to hide in the corner by the front door. She placed the tennis balls and racket on the kitchen table. Her back was to me, but she heard me moving towards her. She turned just as I grabbed her. There was a brief struggle, and we went to the floor. I then duct taped her mouth closed and taped her hands behind her back. Then I moved her to her bedroom. She was placed on the waterbed and her clothing was removed. I raped her. Afterwards, I turned her on her back and stabbed her once over the heart, through the back, on the right side. She died quickly, 8 to 10 seconds, and it was over. I then turned her over on her back," end quote. Danny went on to detail how he mutilated Christi's body with his K-bar knife. Then he wrote, quote, "After I left, I discovered I had lost my wallet. So I returned to Miss Hoyt's apartment to look for it. It was nowhere to be found," end quote. Danny said that as he was leaving Krista's, he decided to behead her body. Because remember, he forgot his wallet, he came back. And when he came back, that's when he decided to behead Krista. Danny then continued on with his confession, writing, quote, "Then I sat up Miss Hoyt's body. So I was sitting on the edge of the waterbed with its arms resting on its knees. A stream of blood poured and pooled at its feet. Then I left that way, sitting up," end quote.
This guy's, he's the worst. He's the absolute worst. And that's why I said what I said earlier. Just an absolute monster, sociopath, no empathy, nothing. He feels nothing. He wants what he wants. And I do think there's information in here that he didn't provide the first time with Bobby, which makes his confession that much more compelling. He's given guilt knowledge. He's given details about the case that at that point were probably only known to law enforcement, the means in which he carried out these crimes. There's certain details that have been released, but when he starts describing the screwdriver and the different methodologies that were in place to carry out this crime.
The details of the sexual assaults, which are terrifying and horrifying.
The details of the sexual assault, absolutely. But even the moving of like the bookcase and things like that, where they go into a crime scene, when I'm talking about detectives here, they're taking photos and videos of everything. And in the moment, because the people who live there are deceased.
You don't know if that's the way it was set up.
It could be the way it was set up. The bookshelf was moved over here because they were trying to do something behind it. Who knows? There's a million explanations. But it would be something that a good detective would notice and make note of to say, this seems like it's kind of out of place. I don't know what it means. It may mean nothing, but I'm going to write it down, or I'm going to take a photo of it just so I have it. Maybe there's some scratch marks on the floor from the bookshelf being moved. There could be a million different things that would hopefully stand out to the investigator, and there would be a running log both written, but also would be backed up by photos supporting whatever notations were made. Now you have this person come forward and they start to describe what they did, and out of nowhere, they mention this bookshelf and the fact that they moved it, something that no one other than people who lived at that apartment would know about. It's not describing the actual murder, but it's also almost more important than the murder itself because it's describing something that you wouldn't normally find in a household. This was specific to this apartment.
And you
which
couldn't
puts
just
him
sort
at
of
the crime
guess.
scene.
Yeah, you couldn't guess.
Right. It's not like you can say, oh, you know what? They hung the TV on the wall in the living room. No shit. Everybody does. This is something that was probably only in their apartment at the time. Not many people just have a random bookshelf floating in their living room. So that to me, as I'm hearing this statement, that's the piece of information that stands out to me almost the most. That and the use of the screwdriver, because you'll probably have some type of tooling impression that I don't know if it was done, but we as investigators have the ability to actually take a mold of that impression. So let's say it's a flathead screwdriver and you wiggle it back and forth. You'll actually leave an indentation from that flathead screwdriver in the molding of the door. What we can do, it's almost like a silicone, like a gel, like a paste. You put it on there, you rub it in, it dries relatively quickly, and then you can peel it off. And on the back side of it, it leaves a reverse mold impression of that tooling so that if you happen to find the screwdriver later, let's say Danny Rawling had his kill kit and you find it, you could take that screwdriver and literally lay it in the impression that you took to see if it matches. So I don't know if they did that, but even him saying it, if they had taken photos of the tooling impressions on the doors before leaving the crime scene, that is, again, something you can use to verify and validate what Danny Rawling is saying.
And I think that they can even verify and validate that the bookshelf was moved from the living room to her room, because there's going to be like marks left, certain
That's what I'm saying,
dust.
scratches on the floor.
Yeah, exactly. So they can prove this, yeah.
But that could have been something that was done by the victims prior because they were considering moving it. But when he points it out, that's when it's game over. That's a smoking gun to me. That to me is very compelling. And yes, the description of what he actually did to the victims is equally important. To describing where he stabbed her, all these things. But that bookshelf, that's one of a kind right there. Yeah, if the victim was stabbed, most people in the community can probably guess where she was stabbed. But the bookshelf, that's a good one.
It's weird, though, that she didn't notice the bookshelf was moved.
You walk into your apartment. We've all done it. You walk into your apartment, you have roommates. Maybe she did notice it. Maybe she's like, what the hell is going on with that? And not knowing that it was you don't think, oh, maybe someone broke into my apartment and moved it. Yeah,
you're thinking like how, and you're starting to wonder like, when did I move this? And so you're thinking about when you could have possibly moved it, because your first thought is not somebody broke in, moved the bookshelf so they could hide behind it and surprise me. Exactly, you're right. But
this is all happening in probably under 15 seconds. So there's not a lot of time to process.
Well, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and talk more about what Danny told Russell. So we talk about Helix here on Crime Weekly all the time. Both Derek and I have a Helix mattress. I think we had the same one, the Midnight Luxe. I love it. I know he loves it. Everyone in my house has a Helix sleep mattress. And honestly, I just think that when you sleep on an older mattress or a mattress you've had for a while, and then you sleep on a Helix mattress, it's such a world of difference that you can't ever go back. And that's what happened with me because sleep's important, right? And that's where the Helix sleep mattress comes in. I've had my Helix sleep mattress for over 5 years now. My sleep has definitely improved, and that's because the Helix lineup offers 20 unique mattresses, including their award-winning Luxe and Ultra Premium Elite collections. They also have a Helix Plus mattress, which is a mattress designed for big and tall sleepers, and the Helix Kids mattresses, which are designed for growing bodies and endorsed by child sleep experts. But how are you going to know which Helix mattress works best for you and your body? Well, all you have to do is exactly what Derek and I did, which is take the Helix Sleep Quiz, find your perfect mattress in under 2 minutes, and your personalized mattress is going to be shipped straight to your door free of charge. So, Derek is going to tell you how you can check Helix Sleep out for yourself if you're in the market for a new mattress or if you're wondering if your old mattress maybe isn't the best fit for you and now is the time to check something else out. Derek's going to tell you how you can check Helix out.
That's right. We got the discount going right now. Crime Weekly discount. Helix is offering 25% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners and viewers. All you have to do is go to helixsleep.com/crimeweekly. That's helixsleep.com/crimeweekly. This is their best offer yet, and it won't last long. With Helix, better sleep starts now.
So Russell told Danny's defense team that Danny also spoke about the night he broke into Manny Taboda and Tracy Paulus' apartment with the goal of raping and killing Tracy. Danny said when he got inside, he found 2 bedrooms. In the first bedroom he went into, he saw Manny sleeping in bed. After seeing a man in there, Danny hesitated to go through with his plan to attack Tracy because now he'd have to fight with a man. But Danny really wanted to rape Tracy, so he decided to go through with it and stabbed Manny. As Danny plunged the knife into Manny, he woke up and fought back, at one point nearly overpowering Danny. But in the end, Danny managed to kill him. Afterward, Danny went into the hallway and found Tracy standing there with something in her hand. She then ran back to her room and shut the door. Danny thought she had a weapon in her hand, so he got nervous. He kicked Tracy's door in and realized that she was holding a curling iron, not a weapon, which made him feel better. Tracy then looked at him and said, "You're the one." And Danny responded, "Yeah, I'm the one." He then followed through with his plan to rape and kill her. So I believe when she said "you're the one," she meant like the Gainesville Ripper, right? Because this is there's already been 3 victims. It's all
Words
in the
around.
same area.
Words getting around.
Yeah, they're aware. Now, in addition to sharing details about the Ripper murders, Danny also told Russell he had been visited by demons. He described a specific incident where a demon went up the wall and around a curtain, bringing a rush of cold air with it. Danny said he was Yinrad, that's Danny backwards, when he committed robberies. Because remember, he's got multiple personalities. And he was Gemini when he committed the murders. Danny also gave Russell a poem entitled Gemini, which read, quote, "The moan, the groan, the silver moon shone, the whisper, the cry, dead leaves fly. Through the haze it smells your fears, then it appears, your nightmare come to life. A maniac with a knife, the moan, the groan, the silver moon shone, the whisper, the cry, dead leaves fly. Tonight in the arms of Gemini, a captured butterfly will die, burned red with fever, then turned cold forever. Forever, my dear, no more pain, no more fear. Close your eyes, my dear, and sleep. The moan, the groan, the silver moon shone, the whisper, the cry. Into the night comes Gemini, and tonight you die." End quote. I think a lot of killers try to do this, by the way. They try to make their crimes, their murders, their desire to kill for the sake of just killing because they're horrible people, they're evil. They try to make it seem deeper, like more complex, like more poetic like this, oh, it's my multiple personalities and there's demons and the silver moon shone and tonight in Gemini's arms you die, like almost this like fictional Hollywood version of what a killer is, because it's more scary then. If it's something supernatural, if it's something that it's like, oh, this is just the fate and this is what it should be, and kind of like Zodiac Killer and Mysterious Clues and all of these like weird little things that kind of make it almost, I guess, fictional seeming, you know? They try to make themselves seem more important, more scary, more big, when in reality, it's not poetic. It's not like, oh, the silver moon and the dead leaves flying and victims turned red and close your eyes, my dear, and sleep. Like, you aren't this cloaked figure floating through the night with Satan at your feet. You're a mentally ill, demented asshole who takes people's lives for no other reason than your own short-term gratification. It's not fancy. It's not poetic. It's not, you know, mysterious at all. It's just you're a horrible person. You're a shitty asshole person who kills people because you just feel like it. And you have mental health problems. There's nothing poetic or mysterious about that. But you see what I mean? They try to make themselves seem more like interesting, more like, oh, I'm this figure that comes in the night and you'll never know when I'm coming and then I disappear as quickly as I showed up. You're not. You're not some supernatural, enigmatic figure born from the night. You're an asshole. And that's it. You know what I mean?
Have you ever seen the movie Joker with
Of course.
Joaquin?
Of course,
Okay.
yeah.
I feel, and this is before Joker, but I feel like a lot of these guys, they're the main character in their own story. They're the villain in their own. This is their origin story. And it's kind of like the movie Joker, if you guys get that reference, where in these guys' minds, they are the main character of their whole life and they're writing the script as they go. And so it's important for them to create not only these side quests, but also the narrative and the backstory behind it to add flair to what's going on.
Romanticize it a little bit, yeah.
And so they are living this life, and in their head, it's a movie. And like I said, they're the villain, but they're the main character. And there are movies like Joker where you almost find yourself in a weird way rooting for the bad guy, right? Isn't that weird how that happens?
Because it's a movie and you know it's a movie and you know it's not real, right?
No, but think about Joker for a second. Why do we, besides the fact that it's a movie, right? And I hope most people have seen this movie. If you haven't, it's incredible. You have to watch it.
There's another one coming out. You saw that?
There's another one coming out. But this origin story of Joker, I found myself as a law enforcement officer, and he's a bad guy. But because of what he went through, there's a small part of you, or I should say me, that was rooting for him in a way, this weird way. And it's incredible how the director and Joaquin and everyone involved, is it Joaquin or Joaquin?
Joaquin.
Joaquin with an N almost at the end, right? So it's amazing and it's a testament to them, but you found yourself with this horrible person killing innocent people, and yet you felt for him in a way. And I say all this to say, this is how these people view themselves. They are the victim. And in their minds, they're only serving justice for how they were wronged. And I think that Joker's a very good example of how that emotion, even though you know what you're watching is wrong, you have found a way to empathize or sympathize with them and feel sorry for them because they feel sorry for themselves.
Well, that's because media, like many art forms, has that unique ability because you understand what you're watching is fiction, and media can show you a real life person, right? Nobody's 100% good. Nobody's 100% bad. This shows you the gray areas, the different contrasts in every one of us, right? None of us are 100% good. None of us are 100% bad. And obviously,
Speak for yourself.
Okay.
Pure.
It's exaggerated. It's
pure over here on this end of the screen.
Pure hero, hundo P. Okay.
I do the holy water before I walk into the studio.
Yeah. Bless you, my son. You got to kiss it.
Speak for yourself.
So anyways, it's exacerbated and exaggerated in films where it's like this Joker, horrible, but it makes people feel seen and heard because they're like, okay, yes, I want to go into a film not really knowing who's the good guy and who's the bad guy because everybody has shades of gray and everybody has various levels of good and bad in them. And I find myself oftentimes rooting for the villain because as a human, I think we can all relate to that kind of character a little bit, you know, especially in today's society where it's all very black and white. Like if you make any mistakes, you're going to be destroyed for it. It's going to be talked about forever. That's what's going to stick with you. Whereas humans in general, they make mistakes, they do bad things, but they also do good things. So I think that art and media gives us a chance to experience these kinds of things safely, knowing that they're absolutely fictional. But you don't watch a true crime story, right? That knowing that there's a real person on the end of it, knowing that there's real victims, you don't find yourself empathizing with Danny Rolling, right? And there lies the very distinctive and important difference.
Danny Rolling can go.
Yeah, he can.
But I do think that when he's telling these stories and he's writing these poems, it's for everyone to be immersed in his movie.
His narrative.
Right?
He wants everyone to see himself the way he sees himself, which is this glorified version of some dark anti-hero where you're just a mentally ill loser that took your pain out on others. There's nothing special, unique, or stand out about you. You're a loser. You're an asshole. That's it. And nobody wants to look at themselves like that, right?
He's taking you along this arc. In his mind, he's the hero. To everyone else, he's the villain. That's the disconnect that he's not finding.
Because he's talking about himself. Through the haze, it smells your fears. Then it appears, your nightmare come to life, a maniac with a knife. Like, he's thinking of himself, I can smell your fear. No, you can't. You walk around peeping in people's windows until you see a cute girl that you could never get in real life, and you're going to take her for yourself, and then you break in. Like, that's it. You're a common break-in murdering asshole. You're not like, I can smell your fear. No, dude. No, you cannot. Stop it. So, yeah, he's stupid. After talking to Danny's defense team about all the things Danny told him, Russell went back to his cell and grabbed writings that Danny had given him. He then handed everything over to the defense team. Over the next few months, Danny's attorneys continued building their defense for trial, which was fast approaching, with jury selection scheduled to begin February 15th, 1994, in Alachua County, which is home to Gainesville. Surprisingly, the defense did not request a change of venue. They explained to the media that they didn't make this request because there had been so much publicity around the case. They didn't think they'd find a jury anywhere in the state that hadn't heard about the Gainesville Ripper murders, which is refreshing to hear because a lot of defense teams are like, oh, let's change the, Scott Peterson's defense team did that. Like, oh, we got to change the, the venue of the trial. And it's like, it's the Peterson case. It's Lacey Peterson. Everyone's in California's heard about it. There's no place safe for you to go. There's no place safe for your client to go. So the defense did file several other motions, including multiple attempts to have Danny's confessions to Bobby Lewis and the police banned from the trial. But of course, because the police did their due diligence in this, and at least this portion of the investigation, they were unsuccessful in getting these motions to go through. So the defense decided to focus on highlighting as much reasonable doubt in the prosecution's case as possible. Their strategy was to argue to the jury that the prosecution's case was purely circumstantial. There were no eyewitnesses, and it took detectives 4 months before they even considered Danny a suspect. The defense planned to tell the jury that Bobby and Danny did speak to the police, but it was Bobby who did most of the talking, and Bobby couldn't be trusted. He was a convicted killer who thought he was getting a deal. The defense also had plans to argue that some of the evidence found at the murder scene had never been definitively linked to Danny, and while his semen was allegedly found at some of the scenes, DNA testing was new and couldn't be trusted. Here's my question. Why is Danny getting these defense teams and these lawyers and now having them try to get him out of these things that he eagerly, willingly, and multiple times confessed to? Why wouldn't you just take the sentence at this point? Like, you did it. You told everybody you did it. What's the deal?
When you can't discredit the evidence and you can't discredit the actual confession, you go after how the confession was obtained.
But why would Danny willingly give this confession? To Bobby, to the police, to this other dude?
They're going to make a defense for it. They're going to say it was under duress. It was under he wasn't in the right mental state. They're going to try everything under the sun. We talk about it in all these cases where when the evidence is ironclad, like if it's a physical piece of evidence that police find, the defense will go after how that evidence was obtained. You didn't have the right to go there, illegal search and seizure. Yeah, you found a knife that had a note with it that said, hey, Derek Levasseur killed this person. However, you got the knife out of a car you didn't have a search warrant for. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm not demonizing the defense team for doing that. That's their job, and we don't want detectives or investigators in general going beyond the scope of the Constitution in order to justify, what they're doing, right? We don't want to get into the practice of law enforcement violating your rights because they feel you're guilty of something. Because in some instances, and not all of them, but some, they're wrong. And so by manipulating the facts to get what they want, the end doesn't justify the means. So this is what the defense's job is. They don't care what you have. You got confessions, you got evidence. We're going to start to go after the evidence itself, and we're going to start to say that the confession is invalid because of X, Y, and Z. I didn't even know it was going to go there, but when you were saying it earlier, I had a feeling. I had a feeling that this would come up, and it does happen. I understand it. I know it's cliche, but it's part of the game.
It just feels like somebody who wants to talk so openly and readily about their crimes wouldn't even, when the lawyers were like, oh, we're going to get you out of this, he'd kind of be like, why? This is my life now. Like, I'm the Gainesville Ripper, but
he's hoping he can say what he wanted to say and still be a free man one day. Imagine that. Hey, I confess to it and I'm walking around. That's the ultimate. That's the goal.
He's in the courtroom and he's looking at the jury and he's like, I can smell your fear.
Yeah.
Like, okay, dude. Let's take our last break and we'll be right back. There are so many beauty brands right now. It feels like new ones are coming out all the time, and so many of them are under the same umbrella, and you don't really know who to trust. You don't know what's going to work for you, and that's because most beauty brands don't understand your unique concerns. The fact that everybody's got a different skin type, everybody's got a different hair type, but Prose really does. They have a formula that can address any specific type of concern because it's based on your specific needs. And if you're wondering whether custom hair care is worth the hype, let me tell you, it is. And that's why I'm obsessed with Prose. Since 2017, Prose has transformed traditional hair and skincare with a made-to-order model. And not only is it made to order, but it's going to reduce waste, and it's going to celebrate a unique beauty over one-size-fits-all beauty standards. And it works way better than any off-the-shelf alternatives. So since I've switched to Prose specifically with my hair, I've noticed that it just behaves better. And I just didn't want my hair to be something that took up time in my day. I want it to be very easy, very manageable, and that's what's happened with Prose. I find it to be much more manageable, all the good things. And because you're always changing, so is your Prose formula. Your formulas are going to evolve alongside you, and Prose will address any new concerns and adjust your formula with the seasons. Prose also offers custom skincare, so whether you're looking for stronger strands or brighter skin, it is time to discover the difference of custom hair and skincare made just for you. And with the Prose promise, if you don't love your first order, it is on Prose. So there's never been a better time to switch to custom. You have nothing to lose. Derek's going to tell you how you can check it out for yourself.
That's right. Prose is so confident that you'll bring out your best hair that they're offering an exclusive trial offer of 50% off your first hair care subscription order at prose.com/crimeweekly. So take your free consultation, get your one-of-a-kind formulas, and see the difference custom hair care can make with 50% off at Prose. That's prose.com/crimeweekly. Once again, that's prose.com/crimeweekly.
I love a great deal as much as the next girl, but I'm not going to crawl through a hot bed of coals just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. I wanted to see if that was accurate. And it turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. And the longest part of the process is going to be the time that you spend on hold trying to break up with your old provider. I used to work for a big cell phone company, and I remember every single day without fail, the majority of people I talked to would complain about how much their cell phone bill was. And it was just like they didn't realize there was other alternatives. I didn't realize there was other alternatives, but Mint Mobile is a really great alternative. So to get started, go to mintmobile.com/crimeweekly. There you're going to see that right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including their unlimited plan. So you can find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for $15 a month. Derek's going to tell you how.
That's right. To get this customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/crimeweekly. That's mintmobile.com/crimeweekly. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/crimeweekly. And here's a quick little disclaimer for you. $45 upfront payment required, which is equivalent to $15 a month. And this applies to new customers on their first 3-month plan only, and speeds are slower above 40 gigabytes on the unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions may apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Now, while the prosecution was putting the finishing touches on their case, they planned to overwhelm the jurors with wave after wave of physical evidence, which pointed to Danny and only Danny as the Gainesville Ripper. Then they were going to put Bobby on the stand to testify about Danny's confession. The prosecution told the media they felt very confident in the case they had built. One of their only concerns was the jury, who would have to see 17 crime scene photos of the victims. The prosecution was worried the jurors might need counseling after the trial, noting that the grand jurors who had indicted Danny, they definitely did have to go to counseling after seeing the photos. Now, by the start of February 1994, the courthouse was preparing for the trial, which was expected to last at least 10 weeks and receive a ton of media attention. Almost every major national news outlet planned to be there, and the TV show A Current Affair even made the tasteful decision to hire Sondra London to be their courtroom correspondent. To prepare for the trial, highly sensitive metal detectors were installed at the courthouse's main entrance, and extra security was hired for the days that court was in session. They also made plans for Danny to wear a bulletproof vest under his suit. Finally, the morning of February 15th arrived, and jury selection in Danny's trial was scheduled to begin. Now, Tracy Powell, as his father, told the media that he'd been dreading the day since the moment Tracy was found brutally murdered. However, he was relieved that the trial had finally come. He said, quote, "Deep down inside, I want people to know what happened to Tracy. I'm not ashamed of what happened to her. She did nothing wrong. People have to know what Rowling has done. They have to know that," end quote. But I completely understand what he's saying, because as the parent of these victims, as Tracy's father, you're going to want to be in the courtroom to represent her, to show your support for her and for her fellow victims. But now you have to listen in great detail to what happened to her, which, as we know already, is horrendous. No parent wants that to happen to their child, and no parent wants to hear, maybe from the mouth of the killer himself, what exactly happened to your child at the hands of such a brutally violent, horrible individual. So I can understand that you would be dreading that. I don't know how I would do it. I don't know. I'd want to be there, but I might have to put headphones in or something when that portion of the trial was happening, because I just don't know how you would ever be the same, or how you could ever really feel an ounce of happiness in life after that ever again. I just don't know.
Stephanie, we're sitting here talking about a paragraph or so ago.
Yeah.
We're talking about the specifics of what happened.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not even my relative.
I know.
And my stomach's turning.
Exactly.
Okay. So, and I think I speak for everyone who's watching or listening to this right now. I concur with everything you said. I'm not even going to go where my brain is going with it, how I feel about it, you know.
Yeah, how I feel about it is why are we putting extra security and metal detectors and giving this guy a bulletproof vest? I hope he dies.
I mean,
those are I'm like, this is taxpayer money going to all these extremes to keep this guy safe. When he raped this girl, she said, "You're hurting me," and he said, "Take the pain, bitch. Die, bitch. I hope someone does shoot you. I hope they're shot. You got a bulletproof vest on, but your head's still there." That's the way I'm looking at it. That's how I feel about these people. So yeah, I'll never forget those things that he said to his victims. I will not forget that. So how is Tracy's father ever going to forget it or find a moment of peace again in his life?
We're not condoning anything. I have to say that for legal reasons, but I can never pronounce the guy's name. It's Gary Plouch or Ploch. I can never pronounce it, but it's that video where there's a rapist. He molested a child, and the father hides by the payphones. This is an old video. And as they're walking by, the father turns around and shoots the rapist in the head.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry. That's all I'll say.
What am I supposed
But,
to do? Am I supposed to feel bad? Am I supposed to like cry a tear? No.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
think
like,
to bring it back to earth, you don't know how you would react in these situations until you're in them. And I think at this point, as
I know
a parent,
how I know how you'd react in that situation.
I
If you were
think
in
I
it.
do too.
Mm-hmm.
I think I do too, but you never know.
Ever
Like,
seen A
even
Time to Kill?
Law-abiding citizen is another one.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things where
Taken?
even we talk. What is
Sorry.
it?
Taken? We're just going to keep
Taken,
naming the movies. Yeah. No, but yeah, pretty much.
I think about my shooting that we talked about last week or the week, whatever week it was. Maybe it was last week, where you don't know how you're going to react until you put what your mind's going to do in those moments. So I think for these parents, you'd have to listen to them. But I even saw something from Joe Petito's father today. He put out, it's the 3-year anniversary today. I think at that moment you die, and then you become something else where you're no longer living to enjoy life, but you're living with a purpose, and that purpose is for your loved one. Your first thought is to get your family member justice, and then once you do that, it's to get justice for others. But you're never alive again. I don't know if you're ever happy. I don't know if you're ever truly yourself, but you just become a shell of who you were. You go there, you go through the motions. You want to see this person held accountable. I'm sure they're having a lot of the thoughts that we're kind of describing here, and yet they don't act on it for one reason or another. Why that is, God only knows. God only knows. But I give more credit than I don't, because I don't know if I could do it.
This has never happened to me, obviously, and God willing, it
Never
never
will,
will, right? But if anybody's ever been through anything like very traumatic to the point where you do feel like all the joy and all the light has gone out of the world, you'll know that some mornings you'll wake up and there'll be like a 12-second period where you forget what happened, where you wake up and you think everything is as it was, you're happy, everything's good, and then the realization of the reality that you now live in hits you. And that hits you like a ton of bricks. It's almost like that peace coming back for just a few seconds while you're still like on the cusp of sleep and waking, and everything's good and your life is good again. And then all of a sudden you're hit with the reality of what life actually is. And it feels like you just got smashed with it all over again. So to all of the people, all of the parents out there who have lost their children to violent offenders, we get you and we understand. And we'll never understand thoroughly and truly, but I think it's so brave that they go to these court cases, they go to these trials, they listen to these details, because that's how they show their support, and that's how they show that their loved one is still this important person that deserves justice. And I just don't I don't know how they do it, but
they're living for them.
Yes, they are. They are living for them. But so, they're going to get this trial going. Everything's ready. The parents of these victims are most likely dreading everything, but also knowing that this is the next natural step to getting justice, to having this person face some consequences. But then, just before jury selection officially got underway, Danny asked to address the court. He then stood and stated, quote, "Your Honor, I've been running from first one thing and then another all my life. But there are some things that you just can't run from, and this being one of those," end quote. Good for him. Good for him. Danny then made a shocking move and pleaded guilty to all charges. And the judge accepted his pleas. And just like that, the prosecution and the defense no longer had to argue their cases. And I will say, this guy's a piece of shit. He sucks. He doesn't deserve ever to have breathed any air. But I do have respect for him for this, because there's so many other killers that don't ever do this, that they make these parents and these victims and these family members and community members and taxpayers go through this whole extensive long trial when they know what they did. And so I have respect for him to stand up and say, this is one of those things you can't run from. I plead guilty to all charges. This is respectable, at least. In some extent.
Kohlberger. Sorry. Cough.
Right, exactly. Kohlberger, like Brian Laundrie, who, killed himself and still, in the note he left behind, insisted he had done nothing wrong to Gabby Petito and that she had hurt herself, and then she, asked him to end her life. People who do horrible things and then still can't take accountability, even when they know that there's tons of evidence stacked up against them. So I do have a little bit of respect for this. What's your take on it? Do you kind of think like it was the right move, and at least, you did a lot of bad things, but you did one right thing to try to make it better, I guess?
All you have left to offer is an answer for the family. That's it. And so it's a weird thing to give this guy credit, but yeah, I completely agree. That's why I mentioned Kohlberger. And for the record, for all the lawyers out there, he's innocent right now until proven guilty in a court of law. But there's opportunities where you can avoid making the families of these victims relive everything for your own self-serving purposes. And if you did it and you know you did it, and it's pretty damn near certain you did it through the evidence, why not just give them something? But you're asking someone who is willing to commit something like this to have some sense of sympathy for the family, for, you know, and they don't, they're a sociopath for the reason they don't have empathy. So that's why they will go forward and not only do what they do, but then try to get away with it. So yeah, on one hand, I give him credit, but it is, at this point, I would have rather him just not do it altogether.
Well, so now, yeah, obviously, but now the prosecution and defense, they no longer have to argue these cases that they'd spent literally years preparing for. However, Danny's trial wasn't over yet. They still needed to go through the penalty phase, where the jury would determine whether he would receive the death penalty or life in prison. And so now, saying it that way, I wonder if he's hoping that his admission of guilt will save him from the death penalty. Like, look, I did the right thing. You know, I made a lot of mistakes. I was a horrible person, but at least at the end, I did do the right thing and I confessed to this. Will you save me from death? You know, maybe that was what he was hoping.
Makes sense. Again, self-serving reason.
Right, exactly. And you just never know. You know, it was the right move for the families, but was it also a move that would benefit him in some way? The jury selection process ended up taking weeks because the judge wanted to make sure the final jurors were, quote, without a doubt, impartial and unbiased, end quote. They didn't want to have to go through this again. The state had already spent $6 million and 3.5 years investigating the murders. So after a few weeks, the jury was seated and opening statements in the penalty phase began. In case you need a refresher on what the penalty phase is, this is where the prosecution and the defense try to convince the jury of what Danny's sentence should be. The prosecution would put forth evidence of aggravating factors, which they believed proved he needed the death penalty, while the defense would present evidence of mitigating factors, which they believed showed Danny needed mercy and should get life in prison instead of the death penalty. So after the prosecution and defense presented their arguments, the jury would decide if the mitigating factors outweighed the aggravating factors. If they didn't, then Danny would get the death penalty. Now, the prosecution told the jury that they had identified 4 aggravating factors to prove Danny deserved the death penalty. The first factor was that the murders of Christi, Sonja, Krista, Manny, and Tracy were committed in conjunction with another felony, armed burglary, and in the cases of Christi, Krista, and Tracy, also rape. The second aggravating factor was that the murders were heinous, atrocious, and cruel. The third was that each of the murders was committed in a cold, calculated, and premeditated manner. And the fourth was that Danny had 12 prior violent felonies spanning 15 years in 6 different jurisdictions, making him a felon with a violent history. The prosecution told the jury that no matter what mitigating factors the defense brought up, nothing would outweigh these 4 aggravating factors. And now talking about that too, I wonder if Danny was like, hey, I want this jury to sentence me without getting the details of what I did. Because the details, if we have to go through and have witnesses, and if my statement about what I said to these women and what they said back to me and the absolute horror that my victims were in during the time that I was, torturing and murdering them, maybe it's going to be less likely that they think I deserve life in prison rather than the death penalty. So I don't want the details of my heinous acts read aloud in court. I kind of want to just brush over that for a little bit. Now, during the defense's opening statement, they acknowledged that Danny was guilty of the armed burglaries and murders of Christi, Sonja, Krista, Tracy, and Manny, as well as the rapes of Christi, Krista, and Tracy. However, they argued this didn't automatically mean Danny deserved the death penalty. There were mitigating factors that they believed proved Danny should receive life in prison instead. Factors like how Danny had the emotional age of a 15-year-old and that he committed the crimes while under the influence of extreme mental or emotional disturbance. The defense told the jury that many people would testify that Danny came from a dysfunctional family and suffered physical and mental abuse during his childhood, which contributed to his mental condition at the time of the offense. The defense argued that all of these factors would outweigh the aggravating factors that the prosecution put forth and prove that Danny should get a life sentence instead of a death penalty. That was the best they had. No. Absolutely not. These are not even great mitigating circumstances. So once the opening statements were over, it was time for the prosecution and the defense to fully present their cases to the jury. And when they were done, the jury would officially have to decide if Danny Rolling would live or die. And we're going to have to save that for part 5, which is going to conclude our deep dive into the Gainesville Ripper case. And trust me, it's not over. There are still things that are going to pop up that are going to surprise you. There's still things that Danny Rolling's going to slip in and get under there before this story comes to an end. But as of now, what are you thinking? Do you think that these mitigating circumstances that the defense brought up outweigh the aggravating circumstances in any way, shape, or form?
No, of course not. It's ridiculous. But I do think now, hearing this, it gives more credence to what you had suggested, that this wasn't just some guy who was coming forward to prevent the family from having to sit through a trial where they would have to relive what their loved ones went through. He wasn't doing this for them. He was doing it for himself. And now, with the defense going the way they're going, trying to avoid the death penalty, maybe this was a conversation that was had amongst him and his legal team where they said, if you really want to confess, that's the route you want to go. It could benefit you in a certain way where if you agree to plead guilty to everything, maybe we can keep you in prison for the rest of your life instead of getting the death penalty. So maybe that was a strategic move. This wasn't just some spontaneous confession that he decided to do without the support of his team.
I definitely agree. If he did that, his lawyers knew he was going to do that. Yeah. I think it's interesting. They say he has an emotional age of 15. He has the emotional age of a 15-year-old. Do they mean like he has the IQ of a 15-year-old or like the emotional state of a 15-year-old? Because I don't really see how that makes a difference. The way he wrote his poetry, the way he was so vulnerable and open with his feelings for Sandra London, he seems to be emotionally aware, right? He seems to feel emotions and be able to express them quite well. So what is this emotional age? They're not saying the intelligence level of a 15-year-old. They're not saying the mental state of a 15-year-old. They're saying the emotional age of a 15-year-old. Do 15-year-olds go out and rape and murder people all the time?
Well, that's just it, right?
Right.
That's just it. He had the ability to carry out 5 murders without being apprehended immediately afterwards. So I think he's suitable for whatever penalty he's given here.
I mean, they could mean that he doesn't have great impulse control, right?
Great.
But
perfect. More of a reason to. So basically what you're saying is there's no rehabilitation.
He can't go back out there. Yeah, I know.
So we all agree then, right? That settles it. That's the end of it.
They're also saying like, oh, he feels remorseful for his actions. And his family has a history of mental illness, and his ability to conform his conduct to the requirements of the law was impaired because of his mental illness. But they never actually really say like what his mental illness is. Like, was he diagnosed with an actual mental illness? Was he examined by a psychiatrist? And the psychiatrist was like, oh, he's got, antisocial personality disorder or this or that. Not really. They're just kind of saying like, oh, he was in a high emotional state and he had like trauma. And, because of this mental illness, he wasn't able to conform to the requirements of society and the law. So it just honestly, it sounds like they're on the side of the prosecution at this point. So I don't know. But yeah, we will see what happens next time.
Final part next week, right?
Yeah. You have final thoughts about this part?
No, I mean, overall, it's one of these things where we're going through the progression. It sounds like this guy was trying to get a deal for people he cared about, and his plan all along was to ultimately confess to it to hopefully avoid the death penalty. Think about it. He confesses. He does it through the conduit of his loved one. And so they benefit off it financially, which he can't benefit from because he's in prison. But then once they get their take on this whole situation, he can confess publicly in a court of law and hopefully avoid the death penalty, which would allow him to at least spend the rest of his life in prison, but with his loved one coming to visit him frequently. You know, one of those things where they both benefit.
And his loved one being his loved one being his fiancée,
Yes.
who will theoretically become his wife, and then whatever money she makes from the sale of the book will then legally be his as well.
Technically, yeah. Technically. So it sounds to me like a more calculated play here. When you read it quickly, it sounds like a guy who's just impulsive and just can't shut his mouth. But I feel like this whole thing was very methodical.
It seems that way. Like he knew from the beginning what way he was going to go with this.
It sounds like it. And I think that's not a stretch when you consider how methodical he was about these killings as well. Yes, they were impulsive in the moment when he did them, but he took measures to avoid apprehension and to also get the drop on his victims. So this is someone who definitely thinks about his actions before doing them, even though it may not be a long thinking process. And the more and more I hear, the more and more I believe that Danny Rawling was planning this all along. This was the outcome. He met Sondra. He wanted to make sure she was taken care of, make sure the money filtered back into him through marriage, and hook up his boy Bobby initially. Obviously, that kind of fizzled. And then by confessing and being the quote unquote hero, you know, by not causing the family to have to listen to what he actually did to them, did to the victims, then he also benefits from that as well by being allowed to stay alive. So it's all about Danny Rawling, no one else. And it started that way, and it looks like it's going to end that way. And I'm looking forward to hearing the end of it and seeing how this all plays out. You kind of gave away a little bit there that he's dead. I don't know if he died because of the death penalty or he died due to natural causes in prison, but I'm interested to see how it all plays out. I'm also interested to see if we find out more about Sondra as well, how she made out in this whole situation, because I do think a lot of people are curious about that. I know I am.
Yes, we will. And I think that a lot of the questions that I sort of posed just now, where I was like, well, did a psychiatrist examine him and come up with this, you know, legitimate mental health disorder, et cetera, et cetera? Like, what kind of things happened to him in his childhood that would be considered, you know, mitigating? Those are going to be answered in the 5th and final episode. So everybody stay tuned. Make sure you make sure you tune in for that, because it's going to be kind of wrapped up, and we're going to have better understanding of what happened and why, yes, the jury did maybe struggle a little bit deciding whether or not to give Danny Rawlings the death penalty.
Yep. We will be back next week. Until then, everyone stay safe out there. Oh, real quick. Real quick.
Mm-hmm.
We get a lot of fan mail, and I just happened to be opening one before we started. Shout out to Candace Bryant. She sent us a bunch of bracelets. If you're watching on YouTube, they're all our different sayings, and some of them are like pineapples and stuff.
Yo, is that the same? Cool. There was a girl at CrimeCon that gave me a bunch of bracelets. It said like Crime Weekly, Criminal Coffee on them. They were so awesome. I still have them.
I don't know if it's the same one.
Yeah, this is awesome. I love bracelets. If you guys can see on my camera, it might be a little blurry because it's out of focus, but this one has pineapples. But yeah, that's all our sayings and stuff. So thank you, Candace Bryant. A lot of you guys send us stuff. We don't always promote it on the episodes. It's a lot. Some of it's personal, but we, you know, just to put it out there, we always are very appreciative of everybody who sends these things and takes the time to make them. And there's usually these nice notes that go along with it, which was the case here as well. So shout out to Candace Bryant for sending those over to us. We really do appreciate it. I love some friendship bracelets, man.
We got you covered. Thank you so much. There's your shout out. We will be back next week. Like Stephanie said, final part of the Gainesville Ripper. Until then, everyone stay safe out there. We'll see you soon.
Bye.